Welcome back to my channel for a short Nikon lens review, and the lens I'm going to consider in this video is the Nikkor Z 40mm widest open f2.0, and that lens has an astonishingly low price tag. And I've done a similar review just some time back on the Nikkor 28mm widest open f2.8 here in the special edition, which is a fantastic lens and cost you only in the US around $300. The Nikkor Z 40mm is currently even cheaper. I just looked it up at B&H in the US. You can purchase this lens for $250 and you get excellent performance and a lot of value for your money. Let's kick off the video. Let's have a closer look at the lens and its build quality. So it's the Nikkor Z 40mm f2.0. If we look inside, we get some information. So the filter thread here is 52mm, and by construction this lens not necessarily needs a lens hood, and there is also not a lens hood in the box when the lens is shipped. If we remove here the back protection, you see that the lens is nice but has a little bit of a plastic type appearance, so it's not as valuable as some of the typical Nikkor Z lenses you purchase for your Z9 or Z7 Mark II. But in general, the look and feel is nevertheless not cheap at all. And the focus ring is buttery smooth with the right resistance. And also the look and feel of the lens from the outside is not cheap at all. The lens is actually fully weather sealed, so you can shoot this under all weather conditions and is dust and splash waterproof. And I think in general it's a beautiful lens, and with 170 gram is also not really heavy, so you can easily mount this on a C7 Mark II and you will hardly notice that you have a lens mounted. Or if you take it to the Nikon Z9, based on the larger weight of the camera body here, this is almost like having no lens mounted at all. So very lightweight, very good construction, a little bit cheaper if you look in closer detail, but not cheap at all when it comes to the look and feel of the lens. I have now mounted the Nikkor Z 40mm on my Nikon Z9 here, and I should say, when you look at that massive camera body and that small lightweight lens, the lens almost looks a little bit lost on the Nikon Z9. So I guess from just the design perspective, it's probably better suited for the Nikon Z7 Mark II and the smaller camera bodies you get in the Z lineup from these Nikon system cameras. But nevertheless, it worked very well on the Nikon Z9 because I did shoot this lens a lot in the last weeks and I enjoyed shooting with it. So let's get the lens cap off here and let's look at autofocus performance. And you see this is immediately jumping here to the face of my model, which is not a model, and is actually working quite well. So I like a lot the autofocus performance. There is a stepping motor inside that lens here, which makes autofocus super silent, and that is something in particular videographers will appreciate, and I think is a good feature to have. I got my model here a bit closer to again look into autofocus, so have a look here. If I half press the shutter button, it jumps immediately to the eye. 1, 2, 3, boom. Boom. It always nails the eye here. Perfect. And by the way, the minimum focusing distance is 0.29 meter, so close to 30 centimeter, and the maximum reproduction ratio is 0.17 times. That means this lens is also good for close-up shots. And I've here opened the aperture widest open to f2, and if you look at that, that creates a nice bokeh here. So let's get a bit closer even to the model, and let's take a shot here. Really nice if you look at that. Is super sharp on the face if we just zoom in here, and on the rest of the image we have a super smooth background blurriness here, so quite nice. We can stop the lens down all the way to f16 here if I'm not mistaken. Let's try this out. Yes, f16 is end of story, and widest open, as I said in the intro, is an f2.0. There's really not a whole lot more to share on the specifications of that lens, but to complete the picture, we have 6 lens elements, we have it in 4 groups, we have 2 aspherical elements, we have a super integrated coating on the lens, which helps of course in the optical quality of what you get out of it at the very end. We have that stepping motor, which I mentioned before, which keeps autofocus super silent. And in general, we have a very good performing lens here. And that's why I think we should turn our attention to sample images. Let me share them, then let me comment on a few of them, and then we are already concluding the video. I will keep my comments on a few hand-selected images quite short. The first remark I want to make is by means of the next couple of images. So here, first of all, nice level of sharpness. I like a lot how this image is rendered. But most importantly, if you are at a close distance and you shoot at 40mm widest open f2, you get this nice three-dimensional appearance or pop in the image. And that is clearly visible here in that image, but also in the next one, where you clearly see that B here, and you see how that is in a three-dimensional appearance or pop in the image. Then the next remark I wanted to make is here by means of that image. This is now, let's call it landscape or cityscape, still widest open at f2.0, and it almost looks like you have a wide or large depth of field here. But if you zoom in, you see actually that the background is blurry, and you see this also at these three men here. But the foreground where the focus was sitting, namely on these two people here, it's actually pretty sharp. And again, if you zoom in, creates that three-dimensional expression, which I like a lot if you shoot a lens widest open in an area between 35 and 50mm. Speaking about three-dimensional pop and background blurriness, here you see nicely in this area how background lights are rendered, and it's almost circular, not perfectly circular, but it looks pretty nice. And remember, this lens can be purchased at a price tag of $250, and you get so much out of that lens. And in the same way on the next image, I think this is just a very smooth background blurriness you get here, and I like a lot the way this lens is rendering light and dealing with different levels in the deepness of an image. Here an example where I wanted to demonstrate how sharp the lens really is. If I crop in here to 100%, you see this is pinpoint sharp. And I can confirm this across all images I took over the last weeks. The 40mm f2 Nikkor Z lens is super sharp. And you also see this here with that dog. Let's crop into 100% and you see this is super sharp. Every tiny little detail is visible here, and the lens doesn't miss anything of the scene in front of the camera. And here, by the way, I was shooting this at f5.6, which in my opinion is the sweet spot of the lens if you want to get the best out of it and you can actually live with a less background blurriness. The next image I wanted to quickly comment because you see that it also nicely renders people, and this is clearly a portrait of a young woman sitting on a boat. It's on a Spanish island where we spent some time. And first of all, if you crop into 100%, it's pinpoint sharp. You see everything is a beautiful image, but also the way the colors are rendered here in combination with the sensor and the lens is just very pleasant. I like a lot the way this lens is representing what I see with my naked eyes, then later onto the camera sensor and then on my computer in the final image. I can fully recommend the Nikkor Z 40mm f2.0. I think the build quality is nice, it's weather sealed. The weight is very low with 170 gram. I think the images which you get out, for instance, when you shoot it on the Nikon Z9 or the Z7 Mark II, are really good. Performance of the lens is good. Autofocus is silent. You can use it in video mode, and all in you get a lot of value for only $250, which is pretty cheap if you compare it with some of the more expensive Nikkor Z lenses. If you liked that video, don't forget to drop me your thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel. There's always more to come. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and healthy, and of course, peace out.